My name's Emma Whitelock and I'm Lead Scotland's Learning and Business Development Manager. What we want to evaluate in relation to learners accessing frontline services is who uses our service, find out why they want to use the service, think about trends in that, look at outcomes that learners want to achieve and think about impacts that they're gaining along the way and also after they leave as well. Logic modelling was an integral part of Learning Link Scotland's Explaining the Difference pilot, and I was a member of that pilot project. We've used logic modelling to help tell the story of a project. So we've used it when we're planning new projects, sometimes we've done it during a midway review, and once we've also used it when there was a project that was under threat of losing its funding. We used it to reshape, refocus and help articulate the fit of that project with the funders' outcomes. I think logic modelling can really help you tell the story of what's happening in the project. It's the journey of learners' outcomes. I think it can inspire confidence from funders in what it is that you're wanting to do. It shows you a planned approach and that you've thought about how you're going to monitor and evaluate the project as well. We use logic modelling in quite a few different ways. I think it really helps us focus the situation. Why do we want to do this project? How's it going? What difference is it going to make? It helps us focus and think, what are the inputs, the outputs? What has to happen at the pre-engagement stage before the rest of the activities can happen, and then the outcomes and the impacts, and what difference are we really going to make? I think it really helps focus that conversation. We involve other stakeholders in that conversation too. It's not enough for one person to sit in a room and write a logic model. The people who are going to be involved in the project, they have to understand it. I think it helps workers really understand their role and the purpose of what it is they're trying to do, and it helps them then review the difference that they're actually making. Especially when you're planning a new project, there's a kind of cause and effect. You think your project is going to do something, and this really helps you sort of check and balance. Are we doing what we said we would do, or do we need to? A logic model we've recently written was to back up a funding application to Perth and Kinross Council. So they have the narrative of the application, go along, give a presentation about what the project will be around, and created a draft logic model to really try and explain in one sheet, at one glance, the situation, the assumptions, the fit with their single outcome agreement, and what it is that we would do. It is a sort of linear process, but one of the assumptions is that the learner's journey isn't necessarily linear. This really helped the funders understand quite quickly what it was they wanted to do, and they could see the fit with other types of provision that they're funding. So when the team at Perth and Kinross got the draft logic model in through their email, we actually got an email back to say, great, I can completely understand this way of articulating a project. This makes a lot of sense. And when we gave the presentation, it was also clear that they were happy we'd planned their approach using this kind of tool, because that speaks the same language that they're using, and it uses the same kind of frameworks that they're used to. If I was asked, the tips that I would give somebody else thinking about using logic modelling would be to involve other stakeholders in the process and make sure that people actually understand how you get to the point of having the outcomes, the indicators. Don't just lift it off the shelf from the last project and think that you can use it. It's important to really understand all the elements within the logic model, which really takes you on the journey from why you want to have this intervention right through to what will happen, what will be the impacts sustained after the learner has moved on from your provision. And it's really important to unpick what all those elements are, what difference you can really make and understand it. So involving stakeholders in that is obviously good for ownership. It's also really important to explain it to any new project staff who come on board. And I've also explained it to volunteers too, who find it quite useful to connect what they're doing operationally, perhaps even on a one-to-one basis, with the bigger picture of what the project and the local authority is trying to achieve. Each logic model is unique. So my other advice would be not to just lift one of your previous logic models off the shelf and just try and use it as is. You have to approach each one and treat it differently and separately and really strip it back to starting again with the elements. But it does get quicker every time you do it. So even though that seems like it might be quite time consuming, once you start to get your head around the concept of it, you'll become much quicker at doing it too.